Hey, I'm Kai. Now, one of the big benefits about the Ampero 2 Stomp by Hot Tone is that it's got a stereo effects loop built into the left-hand side of the unit. This means that you're able to run external effects pedals wherever you'd like within the chain of the pedal. I've grabbed a few pedals from the shelf today just so that I can try this one out for myself and see how it plays with pedals. For the rig today, I'm using my Balaguer Espada. This is the synthwave model. This is currently tuned down to drop D. I'm then running into the Ampero 2 Stomp and out from the stereo outputs into my interface. I apologise in advance if there's any whine coming from the Ampero. Usually I would be running a third-party power supply since the original included power supply has some issues here in the UK, but because I'm running external pedals, I need the power supply for those, so I'm using the included power supply instead. Now, this is normally the part in the video where I talk about setting up the global settings, setting up your patch and everything like that, but the beauty of running these external pedals in the effects loop is that you can basically run it with whatever else you're using in your chain. The only thing you have to pay caution to is the mix knob on the effects block on the Ampero. Now, this is not a sponsored video in and of itself, though I do have an affiliate link in the description box down below if you'd like to purchase this pedal. With that, let's hear my dry tone. I've got my patch set up for a JCM 800 tone running through the UK black 4x12 cabinet, and I've got a splash of reverb and just enough noise gate to cut that whine I mentioned previously. In order to wire this all up, it's pretty simple. You connect the effects send of the Ampero 2 Stomp to the input of your pedal, and then the output of your pedal goes into the effects return. The pedal I'm starting with today is going to be the Plumes from Earthquaker Devices. Now, you normally could run this one just straight into the front end of the Ampero 2, but running it in the effects loop gives you a couple of extra options when it comes to bypass. You can have it on for some presets and off for others, and it generally gives the control to the Ampero rather than the pedal itself. So if I engage the mono effects loop into the front end of the amp, you will now hear my tone running through the Plumes. Now the Plumes is currently off, so as I engage and bypass the pedal, you'll hear that coming on and off. I've also set up an A/B foot switch on the Ampero 2 that lets me switch between the drive block in the Ampero and the Plumes. The drive I'm using here is going to be the green drive, and I've tried to match the settings as close as possible. So yeah, I'd say I don't really need an external overdrive pedal. I do quite like the overdrive sounds in the unit itself, but this is there if you want to. An area of weakness where I've previously mentioned the Ampero 2 Stomp to be facing is with fuzz pedals. So for this, I'm going to pull out the Holy Island Audio Mountain Mover. This is based on the Electro Harmonix Big Muff, though with a bunch of modifications. Now, I don't personally think that the reverbs in the Ampero 2 Stomp need any extra help, but a lot of people seem to see this as something of a weak point, so let's try out my HX1 in the effects loop. Now, setting up a stereo pedal such as the HX1 does require a little bit of extra trickery. Rather than just using standard patch cables, you've got to use TRS cables. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn the reverb off and instead have a stereo effects loop. We are also going to turn the mix up to 100% on this. I'll switch over to the split neck pickup position so that we can get a little bit of a cleaner tone out of the amp. I'll hear that before I turn on the pedal. Now let's engage the HX1. I've got this set up on the Glitz reverb setting. Now, the beauty of running this in the stereo in, stereo out configuration is that you can run stereo effects both before and after it. So in this example, I'm going to use the ping pong delay from the Ampero. With the HX1 bypassed and the effects loop still active, we'll be running through the HX1 but retaining that stereo image. I'll engage the HX1 about halfway through. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Really, for me, it was just an excuse to play around with some pedals. I apologise if the focus on the phone camera was dodgy for the first part, but hopefully you got the picture anyway. So as I mentioned, if you'd like to purchase the Ampero 2 Stomp for yourself, there's a link in the description box down below. Other than that though, that is everything that I've got for this video, so thank you so much for watching. I've been Kai.